Welcome dear participants in the today's webinar that is on Smart DC Microgrid Solutions for Remote Areas Electrification. This webinar will be presented by Dr. Rajiv Kumar Chauhan, who is Senior Member of IEEE and Assistant Professor, Counselor, IEEE Student Branch, Advisor, Women in Engineering at Dialbagh Education Institute, Agra. He is former research scientist at University of Manchester, UK and former visiting scientist at University of Texas at Austin, USA. Dr. Rajiv Kumar Chauhan is presently working as Assistant Professor at Dialbagh Education Institute. He has received Amity Emerging Global Academician Award International Conference on Automation, Computational and Technology Management that was held in London during April 2019. Dr. Chauhan received POSOCO Power System Award during the year 2017 and Best PhD Thesis Award to recognize and reward innovative technical research excellence in power system. He has also received second prize in the category of energy in IEEE IAS CMD Humanitarian Project Contest in the year of 2017 for his project DC Microgrid for Residential Buildings. He also received Bhaskar Advanced Solar Energy Base Award during 2014 for his research proposal in the area of DC microgrid from the Department of Science and Technology, Indo-US Science and Technology Forum and Government of India. He has also received Excellent Oral Presentation Award on the paper Voltage Standardization of DC Distribution System for Residential Building in the conference on Power and Energy System ICPES 2014 at Singapore. He has over 50 plus publications. He has edited 2 books with Elsewhere and IET. He has filed and published for patents. He has developed video lecture series on digital logic design under the MOOCs initiative by the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow. He is associated with many journals and conferences as editor and reviewer. His students also received many awards for the contribution in the energy. So I am requesting Dr. Rajiv Kumar Chauhan to present his expertise in front of participants. So
thank you very much Dr. Kalpana Chauhan for the introduction. Let's discuss about Smart DC Microgrid Solutions for Remote Areas Electrification. The worldwide electrification data is shown in this picture, and here we can see the access to electricity percentage of the population for the various countries in this world. The source code for this picture is World Bank. Here the dark area is representing the countries those has poor access to electricity percentage of the population. The top countries those has very poor electricity access is listed in this table and highlighted by the dark color in this picture. So Burundi is the country which has 9% electricity access and their rural population is 87%, while their global rank is 197. Chad has the 11% electricity access and their population is 77%, while their global rank is 196. Note that 16% population, estimated 1.2 billion of the world, are still living lack of electricity access in the 21st century. Really, this is a point when we should think about this problem and we should provide the high electricity access. We should increase the access to electricity percentage of the population. So the question is occur, how can we provide the electricity access to the areas those are not connected with the grid. So this graph is basically representing the connection only. It's not showing the availability, means the reliability of the grid for the connected households. Reliability of grid electricity in connected household in various African countries. In the previous slide we found that African countries has poor access to electricity percentage of the population. That's why I have shown the reliability of grid electricity in connected household for the African countries in this slide. Here we can see this picture is plotted based on 3 parameters, means the reliability of grid electricity is divided into 3 parts. One is the grid is never available. Second one is grid electricity is available occasionally, means half of the time only. And third one is the grid electricity is available most of the time. Okay, so based on that we can see that till now we found two problem. One is how can we electrify the area which are not connected with the grid, and second one is how can we improve the reliability of the electricity, either grid electricity or some provide the electricity with some other source. So microgrid is a solution that brings the electricity to peoples in hard to reach rural villages. Microgrid potential to bring electricity to new market because it provides the platform for the well grid connected areas. Their users can involve in the market by demand side management or by storing some keeping some storing element or storing device to make the business. I will discuss in detail on these models. It can also replace the diesel power generators commonly used in the remote areas in the worldwide, as well as this is very famous in the African countries. So the diesel generators are responsible to produce the more carbon emission, as well as their efficiency is the concern. So now let's discuss about the traditional power system. In this picture we can see the traditional power system. In the traditional power system, actually we had the traditional power generating stations. Those are located far end from the load end. It means we required the big electrical infrastructure to supply the load from the generating stations. This big infrastructure is responsible for the high capital cost as well as poor efficiency, because there are lot of losses in the transmission lines and conversion stages to step up and step down the voltages and other protection devices and other devices which we required to provide the reliable electricity. So the key challenges occurs till now. The increment in the energy consumption in the buildings for the developing countries as well as in the developed countries are increasing day by day. So the challenge is how can we balance this energy consumptions, how we need to increase the production. Okay, the other thing is high power losses in transmission and distribution losses. As I have shown, in the traditional power system the loads are far from the generating stations and the transmission losses is too high. So our another challenge is to minimize the transmission and distribution losses by some other algorithms. Okay, the sort of peak demand and energy demand. Actually, whenever we design a system, we have to think about two parameters. One, our system should be, means the generating station should be designed based on the size of the generating station should be sufficient enough to supply the rated or the peak demand, as well as it should be able to produce the sufficient amount of energy demand. Means it should be able to supply the peak demand, doesn't matter it's occur for a minute or an hour or for a day, but we have to design our power system to supply the load for the peak demand. As well as the other parameter is the energy demand, means our system should be able to apply or to supply the energy demand, doesn't matter how long it will. So because of these, most of the utilities has to done the load shedding. So and load shedding is the main parameter which I have discussed about the reliability to the electricity grid. If our system is not able to supply the peak load, means peak power, then load shedding will be there, that will affect the grid reliability. The other thing is, if our system is not able to supply the sufficient amount of energy demand, that time also the load shedding will occur, because load shedding has to run. The other challenge with the various country is the poor electrification. So poor electrification means we don't have the grid access to the many remote sites. So that is the another challenge. Either we should extend the grid or we should provide some solution for the users which are not connected with the grid separately. The other thing is the high running cost. high running cost or installation cost, or we can say capital cost of the system. That is another challenge. So to overcome these problems, we have to think about either we should increase the generation, that is the minimum requirement, because the energy consumption is increasing day by day, not only in the building as well as the industrial demand. So we have to increase the generation first. So if we want to increase the generation, we have to think either we should go with the conventional power plant or we should go with the renewable energy power plant. So if we go with the conventional power plant, means the CO2 emissions will be there, and the conventional power plants are far from the load end. It means that will be responsible for the transmission and distribution losses, and the conversion losses is also there. Now the second option is the renewable energy resources. It's CO2 free, environmental friendly. That's why the world is moving from conventional power plant to the renewable energy power plant. The other benefit of the renewable energy power plant is that it can be installed at the load end. That helps to reduce the transmission and distribution losses. But still we are looking for a solution of the peak demand, means load shedding. How can we manage that? So we can fulfill the energy demand with the increasing the production, but we have to also think about the how we will supply the peak demand. That is also one cause of load shedding. So demand side management may be a solution for that. So let's discuss about the which type of sources we should increase, because the renewable energy resources are basically non-dispatchable. We can say that because the production from the renewable energy resources depends on the environmental condition, means it is also a variable. It's vary with respect to the weather conditions. Okay, so in the traditional power system, we had that traditional power source and the demand were varying. So the generation were controlled based on the variation in the demand. If the demand goes high, the generation increase. If the demand goes down, the generation decrease. But now the scenario is changing, because now the world is moving from the conventional power plant to the renewable energy resources. And as I have mentioned, that the power production from the renewable energy resources is based on the weather conditions. So if now we had the power system which have the generating variation in the generation as well as variation in the demand. So now the problems has been changed, means both the generation as well as load is varying. So what should we do to keep our system stable, to keep our grid stability? If we are not able to make our system stable, then it may be the cause of grid failure, or we can say the complete blackout. So it's time to think about that we should connect some source which can help the grid whenever the generation is surplus as well as whenever the demand is surplus. So let's discuss about the other options. So we have the battery or energy storage devices. So if we have the energy storage devices, here I have shown in the figure that there are two UPS 1 and UPS 2 are connected in parallel and supplying a single load. So when both the source is UPS, then we can see the response is fast. If we replace one UPS with diesel generator or fuel generator, then we can see that how the response is become sluggish. So that is the one feature of the battery bank, means if we have the battery bank, the system response will be fast, means system will respond for the variation in the frequency or voltage very fast. It will act fastly. The other property of the battery is shown here, because battery has the property it can charge or discharge, means it can consume the surplus generation and it can supply the surplus load. So if the imbalancing will occur due to variation in the generation as well as in the demand, then battery bank can play an important role by consuming and releasing the energy or charge to the grid to maintain it, to keep it stable. So this type of project was going on in the University of Manchester, and I was hired for this project to make the grid and to make the interconnection with the grid of the battery bank to make the business, means to make the profit. So basically the integration of the energy storage is providing a business model for the other businessmen to keep the storage, just purchase the storage and do the charging and discharging based on the grid to make it stable. Or because in some developed countries the electricity prices are varying, like in UK, the electricity prices are varying, and based on if the electricity prices is going high, it means the generation is less. That time the demand is high and generation is low. It means the battery can supply the load at the high cost. Whenever the prices will go down, it means the generation is high and the demand is low. So that time we can charge our battery to consume the electricity from the grid to make it will helps to the grid to keep it stable, as well as we are purchasing the electricity at low cost. So in this way the owner of the battery can make the business, he can get the profit. So this is all about the energy storage, how it can helps to the grid, their stability. Here in the picture we can see when the battery was not connected, the frequency is were varying, but as the battery appears connected with the grid, we can see that the frequency shift at the 50 Hz, means it's keep it stable by charging and discharging, by variation in the charging and discharging, okay, based on the load variations. If the load is increasing or load is decreasing, it's charging or discharging, and even it's adjust their charging rate as well as discharging rate. That is the benefit, another benefit of the energy storage devices. Now the point is occur that either we should go with the DC distribution system or for the AC distribution system. So before to conclude it, which one will be better, I want to discuss about some more options, because the renewable energy resources are DC in nature, like photovoltaic plant is by default DC in nature, and we have the wind power plant, small hydro power plants in DC format. So let's see the DC loads in buildings. So for the light we are using the LED bulbs. So LED is 10 to 100 times more energy efficient as compared to the tungsten bulbs, and it is use DC power only. The other light source is the CFL, is neutral for AC or DC, means we can connect it with the DC as well as AC. The other electronics devices like TV, mobile, computer use low voltage DC, and it need a AC to DC adapter to charge or to connect the electronics appliances. The appliances are supplied with the adapters, and their efficiency is 70 to 80% only. It means we are wasting the energy to connect the DC appliances with the traditional AC system. We also need the AC to DC converters to connect the DC generating stations, means DC renewable energy resources with the traditional grid. It means we required the conversion stages at the load end as well as generating end. The other type of load in the building could be motor based. A small DC motor can be 2.5 times more energy efficient as compared to the AC motor. Historically, brush replacement needed, but not anymore, because now we have the option of brushless DC motor as well as permanent magnet based motor. A fan is primarily a motor. A DC fan also allow better speed control as compared to the AC motor. A refrigerator is essentially a motor. An air conditioner is primarily a motor. A washing machine, grinder is a motor. It means we have the various appliances inside the buildings. Those are based on the motor, and that can be easily converted into the DC load. And even we have all these appliances in our Indian market which are DC compatible. So till now we have found that the energy storage devices are DC compatible. Renewable energy resources either DC compatible or it can be converted easily to the DC. So as a DC source, we have the DC loads inside the buildings which have their internal AC to DC converter or external to connect to the traditional power system. So it means a DC system could be a good solution that may help us to reduce the number of conversion stages. Let's discuss about the more advantage of the DC system. A DC system requires only 2 conductors as compared to the 3 for AC system. DC system has no inductance. As a result, the voltage drop in DC system is less than that of AC system for same load. Hence, a better voltage regulation in DC system. Absence of capacitance in a DC system leads to less power losses because there is no need to charge and discharge of capacitance. A DC system requires less insulation than AC system because of less potential stress for same working voltage, because VDC is equal to √2 times of VAC. Because VAC system work on the RMS voltage. Okay. A DC system has no skin effect, so we can utilize the entire cross-sectional area of the line. In AC system, the current flow on the surface of the conductor, while in case of the DC system it flow through the complete conductor. That means the area of the conductor, complete area of the conductor is utilized. That means the total cross-sectional area of the conductor increase, and we know the resistance is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area of the conductor. That means the resistance is less in case of DC system. DC system reduce the amount of resistance in the lines because of this formula. Let's discuss about the other merits or advantage of a common DC bus rather than the AC bus system. Easy to enhance the system capacity by adding additional DC generating sources like PV, fuel cells and wind turbine. Ripple management can be easily done in the DC system by adding more capacitor in a DC bus. High system reliability. In a AC bus system, if a alternator is failed, there is a good chance of circulating current to flow through the alternator. There is a big impact on the system if it will happen. DC bus system, every power generating source can be isolated using diode and they are able to share the power independently. The blocking diode prevents power injection into AC system during both steady state and transient system conditions. No fault contributions or reverse power injection from the DC system into the AC system. Let's discuss about DC system parameters. If we compare two systems, AC and DC system, mathematically, so we can see for the single phase system VDC is equals to √2 times VAC, while for the case of three phase system, three phase AC system, VDC is equals to 3√3 divided by pi times Vp, and current is equals to P by V. The power losses is equals to I square R, where VDC is equals to DC system voltage, VAC is equals to AC system voltage, I is equals to system current, R is equals to line resistance, P is equals to power transfer, Vp is equals to peak value of the phase or line to neutral input voltage. So there are two AC systems going on most of the countries. Like 230 is used in Europe and Asia. So if we compare their equivalent voltage, if we substitute the value of 230 in this is the single phase voltage, if we substitute this value in the formula given for the single phase, so VDC will be 325 volt. So if we have a 325 volt DC system, and if we want to compare it with the single phase AC voltage system, that the reduction in the current rating is 29.24%, while the power losses reduce up to 50%. If we compare the same DC system of 325 volt with the American AC distribution system, that is 110 volt, the reduction in current rating will be 66% and the reduction in the power losses will be 88%. So again, it has been proved that the DC system is better than AC system. Now let's discuss about the AC distribution system versus DC distribution system for a building. So in this picture we can see in the left side the one AC distribution system is shown, which has their own rooftop solar panel and they have energy storage. Means in this figure a autonomous microgrid is shown for a home. All the appliances are either traditional appliances are used here, like we can see water pump, ceiling fan, geyser, refrigerator, air conditioners, and other are the electronics appliances. So other electronics appliances has their either inbuilt AC to DC converter, or they need external AC to DC converter to integrate with the AC distribution system as shown in figure. But if we replace this system with the DC distribution system, so we can, as shown in the right side, we can see that solar plant is directly connected with the DC bus, energy storage is directly integrated with the DC bus, and so in the left side of this slide is shown the AC distribution system for a residential building which has their own rooftop solar panel and energy storage. It means this building is behaving like a autonomous microgrid or mini grid or nanogrid, whichever you want to define. So all the sources, we can see that solar panel is connected through a DC to AC converter to the AC bus. The energy storage is connected with the converter which required AC to DC and DC to AC converter, and the electronics devices are connected with the AC to DC converters. It means many conversion stages is required for the, and we can see it could be visible for the user or may not be, because if these converters are inbuilt, means are mounted inside the appliances, then it is not visible for the user, but basically there are sometimes it could be visible, like in the case of mobile it will be visible for everywhere. It could be visible in case of iPad, in case of laptop it will be visible. So the other conventional appliances means DC technology based, like ceiling fan, water pump, refrigerator, washing machines are directly connected because they are DC compatible for this system only. If we replace these appliances, these conventional appliances with the energy efficient, because as I have discussed in the introductory slides that the motor, DC motor is 2.5 times more energy efficient. So and these are the motor based appliances, conventional appliances which are shown in this figure. So these appliances can be replaced with the DC technology based, which are available in our Indian market. So this is the new model, DC technology based. So the solar panel, that is DC source, can be connected with the DC bus. Battery storage, that is also DC source, that can be directly integrated with the DC bus. The conventional appliances has been replaced with the energy efficient DC appliances. As shown in this figure, the refrigerator, water pump, air conditioners and ceiling fans. They can be directly connected with the DC bus because now they are DC technology based. Electrical vehicle is directly connected, and the other appliances, because there is some variations nowadays in the DC loads, they don't have some standard voltage level. So if we standardize the voltage level of the all appliances like we have in the AC system, then the number of conversion stages or the converter which I have shown in this picture is DC to DC converter to integrate the DC loads like TV, mobile, LED bulb, computer and laptops. This converter can be also reduced or eliminated from the system. So this system will be looks like without converter. It means we have eliminate most of the conversion stages with the DC distribution system. This is one prototype system for the autonomous DC microgrid which I have developed. In this system, I have considered one PV array, means one PV power plant which consists of two PV array 1 and array 2, and this is here is 8 panels and the rating of each panel is 100 watt. We have the energy storage devices, the battery bank, that is battery bank 1 and battery bank 2, means we can say the battery pack is there, and we have all the appliances are DC, means we have DC ceiling fan. One is the permanent magnet based and second one is the BLDC technology based, which are shown in the top of this figure. In the right side, left side we can see, and the other fan is the table fan, that is also DC technology based. The power rating I will discuss in the later, all listed in the table. Here I have used the two solar charge controllers to integrate the solar plant and battery bank and load together. Tube lights are DC technology based. LED already I have discussed, these are DC technology based. We have the manual switches to manually on off the switches. As in the buildings we have the refrigerator cycle based, so the other appliances also there, but this is a lab setup, that's why we didn't purchase, but we have I have tried to make a simulator of the different appliances which may be inside the building, like refrigerator, washing machine and water pump here. Okay, here I have the one Arduino Mega microcontroller and electronic switches which are connected with the microcontroller to automatically on off the appliances. We have the different voltage and current sensors which are mounted on the PV bus, load bus as well as the storage bus, which gives the information about the current and voltage of different buses. We have the display here to represent the measured as well as estimated quantities. So I have considered the technical description and location assumed in this case is here the appliances are listed. In the kitchen we have tube light and LED bulb, refrigerator, and in the bedrooms we have the fan, tube lights, LED bulbs and other, for the others is shown in this figure. Why we have used the different appliances here? So we have used the DC distribution system. For this system we have DC source, DC energy storage and DC loads, but the problem is this is the autonomous microgrid. It means, and the solar is available only for 6 to 7 hours. So what will happen for the remaining hours? It means we required a big size of battery bank, and battery bank is not like a water tank. We fill the water and we will get the same amount of water back. No, it's not possible in the battery. Battery has their own efficiency. It wastes, means some power will waste during charging and discharging, and for the case of lead acid battery their efficiency is around 80 to 85%. It means we are wasting the energy around 15 to 20% inside the battery during charging and discharging. So we increase the system efficiency by eliminating the conversion stages. We increase the system efficiency by using the DC distribution system by decreasing the line losses. But still one parameter is there, and that is the energy storage, means the power losses inside the storage. So to optimize that one, I have developed a demand side management algorithm for this autonomous microgrid. The objective of the demand side management is to optimize the use of battery energy, means the charging and discharging of the battery, and the maximum use of the energy or electricity generated from the PV panel to the loads, means directly consumption from the PV plant. To implement the demand side management algorithm, I have divided the building appliances into two categories. One is critical and second one is non-critical. Okay. In the non-critical case, the appliances have been further classified into two more categories. One is cycle based and second one is deferrable. For the cycle based, like we can say refrigerator is there. So refrigerator, by changing the thermostat setting, we can change the operating time of the refrigerator, or we can change, like in case of washing machine, that is deferrable, and water pump is also deferrable. We can change the operating time from, like for example, at the place of 6 AM we can run it at 10 o'clock when the sun is available. So we have also include the user input to defer the operating time as well as to change the thermostat setting of the refrigerator. These are the technical descriptions and the location assumptions in microgrid for our system. Here we can see these are the appliances which we have considered, and their location is listed here. For kitchen, we have tube lights, LED bulb and refrigerator. Bedroom 1 and bedroom 2, we have fan, tube lights, LED bulb. For living room, we have fan, tube light and LED bulb, while the LED bulb, washing machine and water pumps are mounted in the bathroom. The balcony has one tube light. The electrical specification of microgrid components, means the source as well as the load, is listed in this table. We have a PV plant and each module is 100 watt and their current and voltage is mentioned in this table. So we have 8 module and the total power plant size is 800 watt. The battery is 12 volt 150 Ah and C20. Quantity is 4 here and the total rating is 600 Ah. The C20, what does it mean? Why the C20 is, how it affect? C20 means if we are selecting the C20, it means, and the battery capacity is 150 Ah. It means this battery can supply maximum 7.5, means 150 divided by 20, that is 7.5. So we can charge the battery by 7.5 or we can discharge the battery by 7.5 ampere, means this is the rated current during charging and discharging. The solar charge controller, we have the 12 volt 40 amps 2 solar charge controller. Why we have used 2 solar charge controllers here? Because we can see the, in case of solar system we have 5.95 ampere of a one and we have 8. It means we have the around 48 amperes and the solar charge controller rating is 40 ampere only. That's why we use 2 solar charge controller here. The connecting load, fan 30 watt 12 volt and we have 3, so the total is 90 watt. LED bulb is 5 watt and 12 volt, means the voltage rating of all the appliances is 12 volt here and their power rating is and their quantity is listed in this table. This is the conceptual diagram of the DC system, which means the electrical circuit diagram of the system which I have developed. Here we have divided the PV plant into two arrays. One is array 1 and array 2. One array is connected to the solar charge controller 1 and second array is connected to the solar charge controller 2. So each solar charge controller has three terminal. One is solar PV terminal, second one is battery, and third one is load. The battery terminal of both the solar charge controllers are connected to each other and the battery is connected in parallel as shown in the figure. Here in the circuit diagram we can see there are two terminals for the batteries. So that's why two batteries are connected to make the connections only. But as shown in the figure, all the batteries are connected in parallel. We have the current and voltage sensors, which are voltage sensors are represented by Vs hyphen 1 2 3 and the current sensor are represented by Cs hyphen 1 2 and 3 and 4 5 6 here. Okay, so all the current sensors are connected with the microcontroller and I have used the Arduino Mega here. The Arduino Mega is also connected to the SD card reader to log data. It is also connected with the timer clock to synchronize our system data with the global clock. Manual switches are used to automatically on off the appliances, means automatically controlled by the user. We also have provided the automatic control through the electronic switches, which I have shown in the figure. These are called relay here to automatically control the appliances based on the control algorithm. Okay, means whatever the signal will be produced based on the control signal, it will be automatically on off the appliances. Here we can see if we use the AC distribution system for this microgrid for my system, then how many number of converters we need? We can see here we need the converter at PV, means PV power plant. We need the converter at energy storage or battery bank. We need the converters at the various loads, because now the world has been moved from the traditional to the energy efficient appliances. We can see, so if we want to use the we cannot go with that conventional loads, because if we use the conventional load they will consume the more power. So definitely we will go with the energy efficient. So but if we are using the energy efficient, these are DC technology based, means we need the converter. So everywhere we need the converter and their efficiency is listed here for the various converters. Quantity is here and prices are also listed for the various converter in this table. So we can see that we required 18 converter for this autonomous small prototype system of the microgrid, and the cost of converters will be 16,300 Indian rupees. So with the DC distribution system, we not only increase the efficiency, we also reduce the capital cost, as well as we have reduced the number of component. It means the system reliability will increase, because if we have the less number of component, the failure will be less. Now the other important thing, whenever we are going for the design of any project, we have to think about that our system sources should be sufficient enough to supply the peak demand as well as energy demand. So in this system we have the PV power plant. Okay, so let's discuss about the how can we estimate the size of the PV source. Okay, the PV watt hour needed per day are the combination of total power consumption in the appliances plus power losses in the system, because the generation should be sufficient enough, whatever the losses inside plus the load, it will supply both the things. So therefore The size of PV plant depends on the watt hour needed from the PV module and a number of average sun hours per day in the whole year. The formula can be represented as the PV module is equals to PV watt hour needed per day divided by average sunny hours per day in a year. The other power component here is the battery bank. So we have to think about the capacity of the battery bank. So the battery size should be large enough to store the sufficient energy to supply the load in the non-sunny hours and cloudy days. The battery capacity can be expressed as battery capacity in ampere hour is equals to Ka divided by neta B into depth of DOD B multiplied by VNL multiplied by NAU. Okay. So here the Ka is the watt hour needed, neta B is the battery efficiency, DOD is equal to depth of discharge of the battery bank, VNL is the nominal voltage of the battery, and NAU is equals to average non-sunny days. So based on these parameters we can calculate the which size of battery is required. What is depth of discharge here? So depth of discharge basically, like I have taken a 150 Ah battery here. So 150 Ah battery, and if it is mentioned by the manufacturer that the depth of discharge for this battery is 50%, it means we can utilize only 50% of the rated capacity. Okay, so at the 150 we can use 150 multiplied by 0.5 is equals to 75 ampere only. That is the meaning of depth of discharge. Now we have calculated the size of battery bank. The other thing is, how can we find out that how long our battery is going to supply the load? So we called one component, that is state of charge, which gives the information about the charge stored inside the battery at particular time instant. So the SOC of the battery is the ratio of stored charge at time t to the nominal capacity mu n. The SOC can be defined as SOC is equals to mu t divided by mu n. Means the SOC is represented in the percentage, and that is vary from 0 to 100%. But no manufacturer claim to use the battery from 0 to 100%. Every manufacturer gives some fixed value of the state of charge. It could be like 20 or 30%. So if we discharge the battery below the given state of charge, that may damage the battery, or it will degrade the battery, it may affect the battery life. For example, if we have a battery that has the battery warranty is 3 years, and if we are not following the if we are going to discharge the battery below the specified SOC level, that battery may damage earlier before their warranty period. So now we have the SOC, but how can we measure it? So we have various methods to measure the SOC of the battery banks. So I have used the Coulomb's counting method to measure the charging and discharging, to measure the state of charge of the battery. So the Coulomb's counting method measures the charging and discharging current of the battery and integrate their values over time in order to estimate the SOC. This is the flowchart for the control algorithm for the demand side management scheme. Here we have to think about two parameters. One is, our objective is to maximum use of the PV power to run the appliances. Second one is to keep our system stable, means our system should never be failed. Our system should be reliable. So what we can do, we have to keep our battery charge level sufficient enough to supply the load when the sun is not available. So in this flowchart we can see, whenever the PV PPV is representing the power production from the solar plant is greater than 0, and here the another parameter is SOCM. SOCM means state of charge measured at particular time instant, and SOCD representing the state of charge desired value at the same time instant. If the SOC measured is less than the SOC desired, then refrigerator operate with control cycle mode and differential loads will off, because here our desire is to charge the battery, because if the SOC of the battery is below than the desired one, so later on our grid will or our microgrid will fail. So it's producing a signal that the battery just give the priority to charge the battery, so battery will charge. Now if the PV is less than the BL is representing the building critical load. Okay, if the building load is greater than the PV, then if this is the case, the battery will charge. If no, then refrigerator will operate in the regular cycle mode or non-critical load will on. Okay, and the other condition for this should be the SOC measured is not less than the SOC desired. Okay, so based on that, now we have decided the battery will be charged or discharged. The other thing is we have the differential load. Like we have for example, the one appliances has 60 watt rating. We have two appliances, one has 60 watt rating and second one also have 70 watt rating. So which one we should run? Like we have the surplus generation from the means sufficient generation after means the PV plant is able to supply the critical load as well as it has the more surplus generation that can supply only one differential appliances. Now the point is which one should we have two appliances, which one should we switch on first? So that time the time specific or time slot given by the user will be the main parameter to switch on the which appliance should be switch on first. Okay, so here we can see that time DN means the time which is required to run to complete the task, and second one is the TR, and here means the run time till now. So desired to complete the task minus T run, TR is the run time, and TCS he is here, and TDI means decision time instant, and it should be in the slot interval. Okay, so based on that the system will give the priority. For that you can find out my papers. I will list it in the last of this presentation. You will find the top papers which is relevant to this algorithm for more detail. So based on that we have decide our algorithm is able, then when the battery should charge first, when we should give the priority to the battery, when we should give the priority for the various appliances operation, either it should be on or off, and which one should be on or first. User input is also included in this system, means in this control algorithm for the various appliances. For refrigerator, as refrigerator is coming under the cycle based category, so we have used the data of Whirlpool refrigerator, which is generally used in the Indian houses. So they have the thermostat setting. For the various thermostat setting, means one is the we have divided the two category for the refrigerator. One is control cycle mode and second one is regular cycle mode. For the regular cycle mode means when we are keeping the thermostat setting at high, means that time the operating time of the refrigerator will be 30 minutes and off time will be 80 minutes in a one cycle. In a case of control cycle mode, means I am talking about that the thermostat setting at least level. So the operating time is 15 minutes and the off time is 80 minutes in a cycle. So in both the cases we can see that The refrigerator off time is remains same 80 minutes in both the cycles, either in the control or regular cycle mode, but the operating time is varying. So if we are reducing the operating time of the refrigerator, it means we are reducing the energy consumption. Okay, water tank in the at the different time instant, while the washing machine is used to wash the clothes, mean we can change the operating time of the washing machine as well. So here the water pump operates for 2 slots as per the user input in the first half of the day and second half of the day. The water pump task completion time for the first half is 6 AM to 10:30 in the morning, and the water pump task completion time for second half is 15 to 20 hours. And the washing machine's operating time is 90 minutes, and washing machine task completion time instant is 13 hours, means the washing machines will run for 90 minutes before 13 hours. In this graph we can see the power curve of the battery with the conventional system as well as with the demand side management system. So in the morning hours we can see that the power curve is high with the conventional system as compared to the demand side management system, or we can say that the power curve with the demand side management system is less as compared to the conventional system in the morning hours. As the day increase and the sun power production from the solar power plant is high, so battery start charging, that is represented by the negative value here, and we can see around 10 o'clock the battery charging rate is high with the conventional system, while with the demand side management scheme the charging rate is low. It's happened because the morning load with the demand side management scheme has been shifted from morning hours to the sunny hours. Therefore, the charging rate means the surplus power is less. The surplus power is the power that is used after the supplying the load with the PV power plant. So here the surplus power is less, that is used to charge the battery. So this curve we can conclude that the battery power or battery charge is used less with the demand side management scheme, because the charging as well as discharging rate of the demand side management of the battery power with the demand side management system is less. So in this table we can find out the different parameters of the system which we get after implementing the demand side management scheme as well as with the conventional scheme. First one is the energy consumption. So energy consumption is 2700 watt hour for both the system or with both the scheme. That is same because as I have mentioned earlier, the objective of the demand side management scheme which I have proposed here is to shift the load from non-sunny hours to the sunny hours, not to reduce the operating time of the appliances or load here. Therefore, the energy consumption in the appliances is same for both the system. The second one is ampere hour needed for particular day is 290 with the conventional scheme, while 217 with the demand side management scheme. These are the assumptions I have taken. The depth of discharge is 50% of the battery, while the average of the non-sunny days is 0. I have considered here because this is the table for a particular day. Okay, so that's why I am considering the average of non-sunny days is 0 here. Okay, next one is the battery efficiency, that is 80%, which I have considered. The battery nominal voltage is 12 volt, that is equals to the system voltage here. So if we use these data assumptions and we calculate the number of batteries to supply the ampere hour needed from the battery for the conventional scheme as well as demand side management scheme. So we can find out that if we have a one battery of 150 Ah, then that means we required 4.8 battery, and that is not possible. So we required 5 battery with the conventional scheme, while in case of demand side management scheme we required 3.6. that is means we required 4 battery of 150 Ah. Because we cannot design a battery of 3.6 or 4.8, it means we have to go with the higher round figure. Okay, so the energy loss in the battery is the another parameter, because to calculate the size of the solar system we need to include the energy consumptions in the appliances as well as energy loss inside the system. So that's why I have also considered the energy loss in the battery, that is 522 watt hour with the conventional scheme, while with the demand side management scheme this is 390. Now if we add the energy consumption plus energy loss in the battery, so energy demand of the building will be, or the system, is equals to 3222 for the conventional scheme, while with the demand side management scheme it is 3090 only. So the PV energy watt hour, watt means that is basically battery, or we can say the PV power. PV power means the size of the PV plant we need, that is 537 watt with the conventional scheme, and with the demand side management scheme this is 441.42. So if we have a module size of 100 watt, it means we required 6 module for the conventional scheme, while with the demand side management scheme we required 5 modules. The PV plant cost is 60,000 with the conventional scheme, and with the demand side management scheme the PV plant cost will be 50,000, that is in Indian rupees. Energy storage cost is 67,500 Indian rupees, while with the demand side management scheme it is 54,000 Indian rupees only. Total system cost means, here I am just considering the cost of the PV power plant as well as the energy storage. So in case of conventional scheme the cost will be 1,27,500 Indian rupees, while with the demand side management scheme this amount has been reduced and the amount is 1,04,000 only, if we are considering these assumptions. Now if we are planning for the system or the energy storage size or the PV plant size by increasing the non-sunny days, at the place of 0 if we put it 1 or 2, so we can calculate the size of the PV power plant as well as battery by using the formula which I have mentioned in the previous slides, estimation of the source size. There I have discussed about the size, how we can calculate the size of the PV power plant, how we can calculate the size of the battery bank. Just substitute this value over there, you can calculate the value of energy storage size and the size of the PV power plant for any given specifications. Based on this discussion, we can conclude that the microgrid provides an opportunity to use the renewable energy resources power at local level. It helps to reduce the power losses in the lines. Moreover, microgrid provides an opportunity to integrate the RES with the national grid. So if we are integrating the renewable energy resources with the help of microgrid, that will be more smooth interconnection with the grid, because microgrid is a system that can operate in a grid connected as well as isolated mode. It has load, energy storage and renewable energy resources. So by doing the management at internal level, it can integrate with the national grid in a smooth way. The electrification to remote areas, as the microgrid can operate in a isolated mode, grid connected mode, it can be operate in a autonomous mode. So it can be a solution for the electrification in the remote areas, because there is no need to extend the main grid. It can be mounted at the particular sites where we need the electricity. If we are using the DC microgrid, so DC microgrid will help to optimize the conversion losses, system component cost, means the cost of converters. If we implement the demand side management scheme with the DC microgrid or with the conventional, if we are using the demand side management scheme, that will optimize the power losses in the storage as well as in the converters. It will also reduce the power losses in the lines. Demand side management scheme optimize the power losses, storage and their converter losses. It's not only limited to here only, it can also optimize the power losses in the lines. I have done one study on the power losses optimization in the lines. I will list that paper also in the last slide. If you are interested, you can go through for the more detail. Demand side management scheme also optimize the size of source, because here we are able to optimize the power losses inside the battery. Okay. So if the power losses is optimized, as I have discussed when I was discussing about the size of the battery and size of the PV panel, we need a source size that should be able to supply the energy consumption plus power losses inside the system, means power losses as well as power demand or energy losses or energy demand. It should be sufficient enough. So if we are optimizing the losses, it means we have eliminated the losses part or we have reduced the losses part significantly. It means the size of the source will be reduced. If the size of the source is reduced, it means the capital cost will also reduce, as I have shown in the previous slide in the table, the list how the cost of the capital cost of the system has been reduced, means the cost of the battery bank as well as the cost of the PV plant as well as their size, how significantly reduced with the demand side management algorithm. The application of this type of project and opportunity is, it can be used for the residential and commercial building in remote areas. It can work for the grid connected sites. It can be used for the poorly grid connected site. Poorly grid connected site means the user has access to electricity, but the electricity, the reliability of the grid electricity is not good. That is called poorly grid connected sites. Here isolated site means there is no connection with the grid. Okay. It can be used for the military sites, means military has to move in the different sites of the nation where the grid is may be there or may not be there. It can be used for the agriculture application, for the irrigation and other, and it also helps to the integration of renewable energy resources, as I have discussed in the previous slide. It can be used for the data centers. Thank you very much.